Maybe I could just hold my hand here the whole time. Hello, and today I am finally filming the book review that I kept on saying that I would film, and I think I was just too worried to film the first book review because it's always scary to throw your opinion out there, but this book I had to give a review for because I absolutely adored it. And without further ado, let's get into it! So yeah, the book that I really wanted to review was They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera. They Both Die at the End takes place in this world where we have invented the death cast system, which is basically a service that calls you the day that you are supposed to die and tells you that within the next 24 hours you are going to die. And in this book we follow the story of Mateo and Rufus, who both received the call and are both just trying to get the most out of their last day that they possibly can, and so we follow them for their last day alive. And if you haven't read it, there's not much more that I could say without spoilers other than you just have to get ready for all of the feels ever that you can imagine and then some. And also the fact that this book, even though you know what is going to happen because it is right in the title of the book, it still captures all of your emotions for these characters so beautifully that I could not put this down. I had to finish it, like the day that I picked it up. So other than that, if you haven't read it yet, go read it and come back, and hopefully we can talk about all of the feels and all of the cry moments and all of the laugh moments and everything in between. This was one of the best books to get me out of my reading slump, and I'm very happy that this one was one of the first ones that I picked out when I finished my college semester and was able to start reading again for pleasure. I was just so caught off guard by how much I loved this book. I had to give it 5 stars. There was no other rating that I could give it. And obviously I went and told all of my friends that they have to go and read this today, like the second that I finished it. And as you can tell by my numerous amounts of tabs, I obviously had quite the ride while I was reading this book. And there's just something so good about this book. And you can't quite pinpoint it. And it's just kind of, the whole book is just so amazing that I have to talk about. The title itself is even amazing because you know what? You know what's going to happen at the end. You know that you are going to lose both of these characters. And I think because you know that, maybe you don't want to feel for them as much because this is it. This is the end of their journey. But I think by spending the last 24 hours with them, you just absolutely grow to love these characters, and you're always at the edge of your seat throughout this whole book thinking like, are you going to make it this chapter? Are you going to make it this chapter? Are you still going to make it this chapter? And I was so relieved at all of the chapters that they made it through. I was so relieved just to have my heart crumpled at the end. Just put in a little ball and crumpled and stepped on at the end. You know, no big deal, just my heart, right? The first thing that this book made me do was cry like a baby. When I got up to the scene where we went to the hospital to see the dad, I cried for 20 minutes in the middle of the night. It was like 1 a.m. while I was reading that. I was laying in my bed crying to the point where, you know, you're crying, you can't see the book anymore, you can't feel your heartbeat anymore, you're crying so hard and you're sobbing so hard that you need to like just take big deep breaths of air. That was me at like 1 a.m. in my bedroom all alone and crying. And the worst part was all I wanted to do was go downstairs and hug my parents while I was reading that, but it's 1 a.m. and I'm not gonna wake them up because I'm reading a book. It would definitely beat me up for that. So, yeah, that's the first scene where I knew at that point, like, I was debating in my mind, I'm like, if this scene is like this, am I gonna be able to make through the rest of the book? Thankfully I did. Thankfully that was kind of like the biggest scene that like caused the biggest emotional reaction from me, but it kind of scared me for a moment because I was like, if this is within the first 100 pages, what is the rest of this book going to be like? And thank God that it actually kind of calmed down after that, because honestly, I don't think I would have finished it if there were so many more emotional scenes like that. But truly, I'm so glad that I didn't put it down at that moment, that I kept wanting to know, okay, what's going to happen? Maybe the dad's gonna wake up, maybe something like that. He doesn't. But you should know, the spoiler section, right? So, dad doesn't wake up. I'm so upset. Although, I guess it kind of would have created a lot more. But I feel so bad for the dad. Like, can you imagine? You just wake up from a coma and your son is dead, and then the last person he spent his day with is also dead, and all you have are photos to remember him by. At least he has the photos to remember him by. I swear to God, if he didn't have that, I would just cry my eyes out. So, what a beautiful moment, honestly. Other things that I loved about this book is the friendships that were made. I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed Rufus and Mateo, but I also really enjoyed everyone else's friends. I kind of forgot their names, I think, a little bit, but like Mateo's friend who comes when she realizes that Mateo is going to die, and she, also goes to spend time with them. And obviously Rufus and Mateo's relationship is just amazing in this book, and I loved watching that evolve. And just seeing how the characters grow so much by themselves in this book was truly a blessing. There are moments where I actually got mad at it though, but first I want to say everything that I like about this book, and then I'm gonna go into the things that I didn't like about this book. But honestly, the things that I didn't like about this book are kind of like so minuscule that, it couldn't take away from the 5-star rating. Other things that I really enjoyed about this book, I really enjoyed the way that you got to see how every character's action affected some other character in that book. So, watching how Howie was affected by someone running across the street. What was his name? The boyfriend. Why do I forget his name? It's written here somewhere. Hold up. Let me look it up. I have it. Peck. Okay. The way that Howie's story interacts with Peck, who's interacting with Rufus, who's interacting with Mateo, is just, I loved seeing those connections. I love seeing those connections because it just really showed you that your life and all of your actions, they do have a reaction. Even if it's not a direct reaction to you, something that you have said or you have done, someone has overheard that, maybe it made their day. So like when the girls were talking about the tags that she sees on that she made on the McDonald's, and the girl who originally created the Last Friend app overhears that, and then Rufus and Mateo were originally in front of that McDonald's. It is such a sweet and beautiful way that it just kind of connects all of the characters to one another. Sorry, the sun is just so blinding, so I'm just going to be squinting this whole video. But what beautiful writing, honestly. I can imagine Adam Silvera just having like a giant chalkboard and like, those madmen that are like trying to put together all of the different tacks and red string it all together. Honestly, that's what this book had moments of, where I felt like Adam Silvera was definitely standing in his room being like, okay, this connects to this, and this connects to that, and that connects to this. It's so beautiful. It's so well executed too. Other than that, I really enjoyed all of the like different things that could be done on the last day. So like the fun adventures that they created. I think that would be like a really cool thing to have. Potentially not, because it's world where Deathcast is involved, but just because that seemed like a really cool idea. Yeah. I also liked how in this book, the people who were working on those last day kind of adventures, they know it's the last day of these people, but they don't treat them like any other way than they would treat a normal human being who isn't going to die that day. So I really did enjoy that, because I think that kind of just shows that, you know, people have to accept that death is around. Like, you know, there's no way to escape that. So I really enjoyed the way that this book did this too. I also really enjoyed Howie's character. I liked the way that he talked about his family, and I liked the idea of having kind of this like celebrity talking about, like, you know, what if I wasn't this celebrity? What if I had done this instead? Or what if I was more to my parents than, you know, the way that I kind of see myself as their piggy bank and not really part of the family. And I really enjoyed seeing that, because I think that added this kind of human concept to not particularly someone our age or someone that, you know, we would share a status with anytime soon. So I really enjoyed Howie's character, and I also kind of enjoyed the way that he accepted his death. Like, he knew it was coming, and he just kind of was like, okay, it's gonna happen. And I think that's kind of what some of the book lessons are about. So, you know, obviously the big one is just go and enjoy your life. I especially loved when Mateo was kind of talking about how he wishes he did that more, because all of the days that he didn't receive the call, so he knew he would be safe, but he was still so scared about facing his mortality. I just think that was beautifully put in here, because I think that is kind of something that, you know, it does hold us back. We are humans, we are afraid of death, and, you know, sometimes you don't want to go on the adventure just because it's a little worrying or it's a little frightening, and then you look back at all those times and you kind of wish you went. So I think that was a beautiful lesson. And then I think the lesson of resignation is one that's very powerful in here, especially with Howie. Howie knows he's going to die, and he knows there's not that much that he can do about it. Even if he stays safely put in his hotel room, he knows that there's no escaping death. And I think that obviously the example here is like to just accept what's coming, and in terms of here it's death. But I think the lesson overall is just there's some things that you don't have control over, and, you know, you just have to be okay with not having the control over everything all the time, and that makes life a little bit easier. So I think this book just did a wonderful job of kind of teaching you how to live and showing that through the perspective of people of different ages, and how, you know, sometimes you just have to be okay with knowing it's not going to be okay. Moving on to things I didn't like about this book, though. Peck. I hated Peck. Not because of, like, okay, I didn't hate Peck. You know what? He was, like, I mean, I hated what he did, but the character itself and all of his scenes, I felt kind of didn't really add to the story. I just didn't feel he was super necessary, you know? Like, they did add to the tension of the book, because you're kind of like, oh no, like, is Peck gonna kill him or something? But he doesn't. And you know what? The Peck chapters just kind of bothered me this much, because, like, I understand Rufus beat you up and, like, in front of and he's, like, your girlfriend's ex-boyfriend or something, but, like, the guy's gonna die this day and you're not. You get to move on in your life. So, to me, it was just kind of like, honestly, if you cut out the chapters, I don't think I would have been missing that much from the story if Peck wasn't in it. I think, like, Peck ruining the funeral was kind of an important moment, but other than that, I honestly, I wouldn't have done the whole, like, trying to go shoot up a club, because honestly, like, it just shows you kind of the stupidity of some 17-year-olds, because this guy's about to die, Rufus is gonna die, Peck is gonna live, he's about to go shoot up a club and what, go to jail for the rest of his life? Like, yeah, to me that was just kind of like, if Adam Silvera cut it out, I would have totally been fine with that, but I know that some people really kind of feel like that it added that extra layer to the book, but personally, to me, I didn't need it. But because of the way Peck's actions dictate Howie's life, I enjoyed him for that. Only because of that reason I enjoyed Peck. Other than that, I didn't really care. The only other thing that I wasn't crazy about is I didn't really understand what Delilah had to do with this book. It was kind of cool where she thinks like her deathcast call is like a joke from her ex-boyfriend, but obviously it wasn't, so but like, I mean, okay, maybe she shows like the side that we are coming from because we don't have the death cast system, so we don't know if it's going to be our last day or not, and I guess that's kind of what she's supposed to show to us, that, you know, we don't know if it's our last day or not, but she treats it as a joke. So to me, it would have been maybe more interesting if like her phone was off or something and she never got the call, and so she didn't know, but I didn't feel like it was necessarily necessary. I don't know, it kind of slightly distracted me from the story, so I wasn't crazy about it. Moving on, one other scene that kind of bothered me particularly was how Mateo died. This kid in the beginning of the book was literally so like freaking out about the stove and so overly cautious about everything. So the fact that he died because of the stove just kind of, it infuriated me, but I guess it kind of also shows that like he felt such a comfort all of a sudden with Rufus, and he jived so much with him that like he didn't care anymore. Like he accepted, you know what, death is gonna come, but at least I got to spend it with someone that I really love at the end of the day. But just to die from the stove? I wish he got a more great, like, I wish he got a better death. That's kind of my only thing. My poor Mateo. My poor baby. So yeah, the stove kind of pissed me off. Other than Peck, Delilah, and Mateo's death, you know, nothing major. I absolutely love this book. I think, again, you know, the writing style is very easy. It's a very fast-paced book to kind of get through because it is literally the span of one day for these kids. I loved watching Rufus and Mateo grow. I loved watching the relationships between everyone grow. And I think that, I mean, you know, if you made it this long in the video, I really hope that you read this book. But if you like spoilers and then reading the book, then, you know, please go pick up a copy. And if you share any different or similar opinions than me, please comment in the section below. And that's it for this video.